name is Bob Guida. I have the honor and privilege of representing you in Concord as your state senator. Last week, I received an email from a concerned citizen that all was not well in Mudville. And so I took it upon myself to make some phone calls. Come to find that you have one select person actually legally operating, and that person can't do anything as a single person under state law. Okay. So I thought, well, we want to try to get Dorchester back operating. I'm going to skip over for now the reasons that we are where we are. And so what I did was I asked a number of officials from the state, as well as elected folks. We have State Representative Dwayne Brown, who's your state rep. Okay. Of course, myself as your senator. Executive Councilor Kenny was scheduled to be in Albany tonight. He might make it, but I don't think he will. But he's very interested in what happens here. Okay. As well, I thought it's very important to... I'm sorry.
I'm your other representative, Tim Josephson.
Hey, thanks. I didn't see it.
No, that's okay.
You're incognito. Yes. Thank you for coming to us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I've asked some folks from DRA, Department of Revenue Administration, to come and just give their information on the state of the town. Okay, and because obviously you've got budget cycle coming up, and you need to get headed in that direction. I've asked the Assistant Secretary of State, Dave Scanlon, the number 2 man in the state for constitutional affairs with respect to appointing boards and so forth, okay, to come. He's here tonight. He'll talk about that. Why don't you stand, if you don't mind. From DRA, we have 3 people. We have Sam Green, okay. We have Josephine Belleville, and we have Bruce Noor. And, of course, they're up here after their workday, but that's the way we do things in New Hampshire. If we have a problem, we work together to solve it. The state government does a pretty good job, and if they don't, well, they hear from me. So, and that's not a nice thing. So, finally, we have Dave Scanlon. Dave's the Assistant Secretary of State. Thank you, Dave, for coming up. Dave was a state rep for a number of years. He was the majority leader of the state House of Representatives, and then he went on to work as the second man behind Bill Gardner, who is the longest-serving Secretary of State in United States history. A phenomenal Secretary of State. Okay, he's a Democrat, but he wins bipartisan by huge majorities. He's elected by the House, okay, because he does an incredibly good job for the people of the state in making sure our election process is to and honest and open. And also, Dave gives him all the support, and that's why Dave's here tonight. So thank you all for coming tonight. Our job is twofold tonight, my purpose. First is to get you up on your feet or put the processes in place that let your select board start legally operating so you can pay bills, hire people, get things ready for winter, and so forth. One select person can't do that. Before we do that, I'm going to ask each of the folks from DRA to stand and give their assessment of the condition of the town and some things that might or might not need to be done. And so with that, I'll turn the floor over to you. Whoever wants to go first, it's up to you.
I'm Josephine Belleville, and I'm Assistant Director of the Department of Revenue Municipal Property Division. It's unfortunate that we're here tonight, but I think that the town of Dorchester needs to get on track, and this happens sometimes in the state of New Hampshire, and that's why we're called here to give information and let you know that it can be rectified. I am with Bruce Canor, who is with Municipal Services, his job is to set tax rates, and all the forms that come through from the different towns and municipalities go through Bruce's crew, and they set your tax rate. This is tax rate season, and the towns need to start sending in information and forms that go through our portal, and I'm happy to report that the town of Dorchester is on track. They're not behind. Your MS1 has been received. All the forms are in order. So they're in a good place right now. And once this issue is rectified, they can move on and we can get your tax rate set. And it looks like you're going to be okay from our eyes. CM Green has been the monitor in the town of Dorchester for well over 8 years, maybe. For 8 years, so he's monitored. A lot of you folks all know his face and know CM. So he's familiar with the town, and that's why we asked him to come this evening. And Bruce Canor, again, is the supervisor of municipal services. If you want to add anything.
The only particular I might add to confirm what like so many communities around the state in terms of preparation for the tax rate. There's one form in particular that when your governing body is put back into operating form, that they'll look at and send to us. But as of tonight, you're one of 65 towns and cities who still have to send it to us. So very typical. Nothing unusual there. From our eyes, if you weren't having this problem right now with a functioning Board of Selectmen, we wouldn't really be thinking anything unusual about Dorchester.
Thank you. So all is fine as far as the financial picture and the reports that are required to do the things that are required constitutionally and by law for you to set your tax rate and move forward. What we need to do is to constitute the Board of Select Persons, okay? And so we have one person who can't do it, but how do we get from there to where you need to be? That falls under the purview of the Secretary of State. And to that end, I introduce Dave Scanlon. Thank you for coming tonight. Dave, Deputy Secretary of State. And he will explain how we get from where we are to where we need to be. Thank you, Dave.
Okay, well, I'll try. And thank you, Senator Guida, for the invitation to come up here. And I used to live in Canaan for probably 25 years or more, and so I recognize a lot of the faces in the room. And it's kind of nice to be back up in this part of the state. I'm not an attorney, so I'm not offering legal advice, but I can refer to the statute that I believe applies and see if we can make it work for Dorchester, and I think it can. The statute talks about filling a vacancy in the Board of Selectmen is RSA 669:63, and it simply starts off with the sentence that says, "Vacancies in the Board of Selectmen shall be filled by appointment made by the remaining selectmen." When people read that, I mean, usually we're talking about one vacancy, a selectman either passed away or moved out of town or whatever, and so the two remaining selectmen in a town that has a select board of 3, or the remaining 4 in a town that has a select board of 5 members, they come together and they make a decision on who they want to have fill that vacancy until the next election. What's interesting in that language is it doesn't say anything about a majority of the Board of Selectmen. It just says vacancies in the Board of Selectmen shall be filled by appointment made by the remaining selectmen. So the way I read that is if you have one selectman, that selectman can make an appointment to fill a vacancy in the Board of Selectmen. How that process works is not described at all in the statute. It's Maggie, right?
Margaret, yes.
Margaret could simply choose a person that she thinks would do a good job. She could take applications, look at resumes. She might want to set up a committee that can just kind of review who might be good in that job. And then based on that information, she can make an appointment to the Board of Selectmen. Then you would have 2 members. Those 2 members could then choose the 3rd member, and at that point you would have a full board. The statute goes on to say that if the selectmen do not act, they simply don't go down the route of filling a vacancy, then the people in the town have the recourse of going to Superior Court and asking the Superior Court to make an appointment so that the business of the town can move forward. So, from my perspective, there's 2 ways that the town can go. We can rely on Margaret to come up with a way to choose a person to fill one of the vacancies, and then once there's a critical mass of 2 selectmen, those 2 selectmen could come together and appoint the 3rd one. And then you would be at full strength. The appointments would only be made until the next town election, at which point there would be an election held to fill the unexpired terms of those original vacancies. So it's not like the selectmen get appointed to just finish out a 3-year term. They get to go until the next town meeting. They run for election if they want to continue, and then they would complete whatever unexpired term there would be. And then the second option, of course, is if you simply can't agree on how this process should work as a town, then you can go to the Superior Court. They might even step in at some point and dictate how that process is going to work for you. Yes.
How, if it got to the point where we go to Superior Court, where do they get the names from the pool of people? Say if she didn't select, or where do they get the pool of names? Is that something as we as a town say, here's people, you know, there's disconnect there. How would they even know who we would want or to choose?
I think it depends on the situation. If it's really contentious, the court will just use its discretion, and they will use their own process to determine the best way to go about it.
But if she chooses a name, we can't contest it, right? From what the statute says, she just says it's John Smith, and it's now going to be John Smith.
But she has that authority in the statute.
Right.
Yes, yeah. Now, I understand that the town of Orange went through a similar situation like this, and sometimes the entire board is gone. And I think in a case like that, you really have to go to the court,
Right.
just so that you have a starting point at least. And if it's not a real contentious issue in the town, and there's a critical mass, and they kind of agree on a slate of candidates, to fill until the next election, the court might just approve it. Yes.
How does that work if she wasn't voted in to begin with? She was picked by prior selectmen. She wasn't voted in to be a selectman.
She is a selectman. It doesn't matter whether she was elected or she went through the statutory process to fill a vacancy. Once she's appointed, she has all the statutory authority of a selectman. And she gets to fulfill the duties of being a selectman. And one of them is, the provision in the statute that deals with filling a vacancy.
Same with this. She
Yes, in the picture?
So, if I'm understanding you correctly, at our next election, if they would choose these appointments, all three select chairs would come up for voting. Not necessarily those people, but whoever puts in for those chairs. We have three. How would we then get back to having staggered terms?
Because if that's the situation where the entire board is up for election, you would be electing one selectman for a one-year term, one for a two-year term, and those are to fill out the balances of unexpired terms. And then, of course, you would have one full term that would be allowed. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we got a list, and there's a couple of people signed up for the selectman's job. One withdrew. Now, could Margaret appoint the person who's still on that list?
I think Margaret has the option of appointing people on a list that's already existing. The statute does not describe the process that she has to go through to make the appointment. If she wants to, she can pull a committee together to kind of help offer some suggestions, or she could just do it on her own.
So if she appointed one person tonight to be selected, then between the two of them, they could come to a vote and elect a third, correct?
That could happen.
Thank you.
How much timeline are we talking about? Like, I know we're all met here tonight, and our goal is to get these seats filled. Is there a timeline? I mean, the clock has been,
Yeah. And there is no timeline in the statute, although
time is of the essence, I would imagine, is in there, but
there are no specific timelines. And it just, even when it talks about going to the court, it doesn't say what kind of a time period has to go by before the people in the town can petition the court.
We were told by prior selectmen that they had to make a decision within 45 days on when they had applicants. Our system has been, they open it for all applicants, then they get a pool of applicants, and the selectmen review it and make an appointment. Controversy was one selectman didn't want to choose. But the reality of that was we were told that there's something in the statute or from the state that said they had to make that decision within 45 days. Is that not so?
I'm not aware of any time frame in the statute that deals with this. Now, that's not to say that the selectmen can create their own time frame.
Yeah.
If it's too slow, however, the citizens of the town can go to court to just move along.
But the citizens who don't have to pay for that themselves, get a lawyer and pay for it.
I don't know the answer to that question. I would hope not. The court, I mean, in a situation like this, I think the court is going to want to move things forward as well.
I believe you can just go and file a petition.
Okay.
And I think it costs them.
Fortunately, I haven't had to file too many things in the court, so. Any other questions? Thanks.
Thank you, David. Thank you, folks from DRA tonight. I would like, because I know you have families and you got work tomorrow and so forth, if you folks are okay, I'd like to allow them to leave. You're welcome to stay, but if you need to get home with kids or wife or whatever, we're more than happy to have you do that. Sir.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
The way I understand this now, me and Margaret's our only select person. She can, right now, she wanted to appoint a second selectman. Correct? Okay. That's what I wanted to know.
So now we get on to what I consider to be the thornier part of this whole thing. All right? Now, I've talked to a number of people in town who have called me, others whom I've called. Okay? We in New Hampshire have a reputation of being prickly. Okay? And we respect our opinions, and we might respect somebody else's. But what's important is, at the end of the day, we may disagree on issues, but we agree that we get business done. And in my opinion, just from what I've heard and seen, okay, the community, the people in the community have caused folks to resign from the board. Criticism that is warranted or not. Okay, how much do you get paid as a select person in this town?
$2,500 a year.
Okay. And for that, they're responsible for all the financial affairs, hirings for those positions, and so it's a position of incredible responsibility. And I will tell you that the volumes of statutes, okay, those particularly dealing with the town, they're responsible for. Okay. There are resources there for these folks to use. The New Hampshire Municipal Association, to which your community belongs, is a very good resource. Secretary of State's office, DRA, all these resources are there. But I've been a selectman in a very contentious town of Warren, okay, and frankly took a town that was broken and fixed it. And the way to do that is to convince people that no matter what you might disagree on, at the end of the day, you don't go home angry. You realize that it isn't a perfect world, okay, that there are resources here that will help new select people, inexperienced select people. We have to respect one another in order for us to be able to respect the process and move the town forward. I don't think anybody here wants to see things come to a screeching halt. But they have. And they have because the people side of the equation in Dorchester is broken. It's just that simple. I can tell you that my Senate colleagues told me I'm on a suicide mission up here. I don't believe so. Because I think that you want your town to continue. If you can't resolve these issues, there are other contingencies that come up that ultimately could result in the town ceasing to exist. I don't see that happening. What I'm asking you is, okay, to work together. Even if you have disagreements on policy issues or disagreements about I don't think that person should or whatever, respect the lawful authority of the people that are working virtually for nothing, doing a very complicated job with a lot of hours that they put in. A lot of hours that they put in. At home, on the phone, in the office, some of them holding jobs otherwise. So it is not an easy position just by virtue of the responsibilities and the hours you have to put in. It gets less easy when people start carping and sniping. And so I would ask you, okay, stay prickly. We need that. That's what makes government effective, which makes government accountable. But we don't need friends and enemies in the same community. You may disagree on policy issues. They ask you to come together for the good of your community. Okay? Set an example for the kids that you're raising. Help the folks that are leading your town. You don't always agree with them. You shouldn't always agree with them. But it's how you choose to disagree at the end of the day that determines whether people say, I quit. I don't have to do this. Okay? Because I'm serving the people of the town, and they are not helping. Leadership is at stake here. An equally important part of leadership is followership. Those of us in elected office are elected to lead, okay? Those of you who are not elected are those who tell us what to do, but you have to know how to follow. If you're getting shot in the back every time you turn around to face forward, you're going to step out of the arena. And so it's up to you what you want to do with your community. I would submit, purely suggestion, okay, that you talk to Darlene about what kind of a process you find acceptable. Okay? And what you want to do tonight, you could effectively come out with 2 select people, and possibly, I think you'd have to post notice for a meeting after that. Because then it would be official business, so you'd post a notice and then select the 3rd. Okay? That's what I would do. Okay? I want Dorchester to continue. You've got an incredible town here. Okay? And so you can build it forward, you can pay it forward, you can do all those good things. But what you've done so far seems not to have worked. And so as Einstein said, the definition of futility is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. So be prickly, but be respectful. Help your elected leadership for $2,500 a year. Okay, they're carrying the burden of all the administrative reporting, all the financial responsibility, all the hirings, all the personnel and employee stuff, the benefits. They get to do all that. And they do it almost for free. So I would submit, I think you're smart enough, I know you're smart enough to know that that's what you want to do. Tonight, if it were me, I would talk with Darlene. Where's Darlene? I just want to see if you're listening. And move forward. It's your process. You own the town. You are the legislative body. Your select people are the governing body. So you make the laws by which they operate, and they follow those laws through. So I'm done. I'm happy to take any questions.
Yes.
Sir.
In the circumstance that a judge would make an appointment, right, would that more or less almost like being selected as like jury duty, a big list of names, whoever it is, does it? You do have to have at least a volunteer, right?
Yeah.
Or at least somebody that's passionate about doing the job.
A judge is not going to appoint someone that's not going to serve.
Oh, okay.
Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I just have something I'd like to read. It's actually in reference to the NFL stuff that's been going on, so we won't go there. We're not going there. But I just read it, I think it was last night. It was written by Taya Kyle, and her son, her husband, Chris, was the one that was killed. Right. And I just thought, tagging on what you were just saying, this was really appropriate. It says, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but parts of it. We heal by loving each other and leading by example, showing people what is possible when we love each other just as we are, and not only recognize our differences, but celebrate them and look at how we can use them together to make us jointly better than our separate parts. Your desire, this is talking about football, to focus on division and anger, if that can apply here, has shattered what many people love most about the sport. Football was really a metaphor for our ideal world. Different backgrounds, talents, and histories actually made us one big team, our community, with one big goal, to do well, to win together. And if you ever want to get off your knees, that's part of them. Anyway, we need to get to work on building bridges. She's found that screaming about problems in service marriages or even standing in silence in front of them hasn't healed even one of them. On the other hand, building a team, rolling up sleeves to get in the trenches during your off time, volunteering outside of paying jobs has proven to make real change. Next up.
I really don't have much else to say. I'm listening, but really, it's your meeting, and probably you want to start working with your select person at this point. I'm happy to moderate.
I actually have a concern. I mean, this sounds great what you're saying, but you're going home. And this town has divided into 2 teams, basically. And you're going to go home, and the same thing's going to start all over again. The reason they're in this predicament is because of the backstabbing, the talking bad about each other, the hollering at selectmen. It's a nightmare. And nothing you've said nothing against you, and it all sounds wonderful, but it's not gonna fix anything.
Now, let me offer this. This hollering at selectmen, does that happen at selectmen's meetings?
Every single one.
Okay, so here's the point. By law, the selectmen do not have to allow one public person ever to speak at a selectmen's meeting. And so I told Arlene,
The audience, speak directly to me, no hollering, please be respectful, ask to be spoken. It doesn't work. It's a screaming match at these things. I don't even go anymore.
then the select board has to put its foot down. There's a reason I asked Sheriff Deputy Clark to be here tonight. And that was, if things get out of hand, you'll be escorted out. And if you resist, you'll be arrested. Very simple. Select board does
Is he coming to every meeting?
That can be arranged. That can be arranged.
Because that needs to be
That
arranged.
can be arranged. But the point is, it's up to you to set the tone. Okay? Nothing I do. I don't vote here. I don't live here. I have a very passionate belief that you can make this town work. And you, the citizens, when someone acts out of line, you shouldn't expect your select board to care for it. You, as a citizen, say, wait a minute, this is my town too. Talk nicely and speak in your turn. And if that doesn't happen, then you back it up with law enforcement, because the select board has a lawful right to do its job without being dumped on at the meeting. Now, if you want to yell in the street, that's fine. I've been there, done that. So, the select board needs your support. Nobody's going to be right 100% of the time. Nobody's going to do it your way all the time. They may not do it your way any of the time. But they're elected by a majority of the people. In this case, appointed. Okay? And you have to solve this problem. I can't solve it. Okay? You have to solve it. It's on you. It's on each one of you as a citizen and a resident of the town to decide what kind of tone you want set at your meetings. That means go to the meetings. Not just a few people, but as many as you can. The more you get, the better decisions you get. Okay? But when things get out of line, the select board asks the person to leave or stop the meeting. I mean, there are tools that they have that maybe because of an experience they may not use or because they don't want to say nobody can speak. It's up to you. It's your town. You make the rules in the sense of how you comport yourselves and what you expect from your select board. Apparently, you're not doing so well. Again, if what you're doing isn't working, change something, right? So you can do it. I believe that. Sir.
I was wondering if we could ask the lady selectman what her feelings are now, and this might save a lot of the questions until we hear from her what she wants to do, where she's decided.
Please.
Margaret.
Yes, Margaret.
There is two former selectmen that have come forward. I would like them both to be on the board. All things aside, I know in the past, whatever bad blood there may be, both of them have said that there will be none. I can't appoint two at the same time. If I appoint one, they may not appoint the other with me. It takes, to my understanding, originally it was two to appoint a person.
Right.
However, I did get handed tonight, coming in, a third former selectman has put their name in as well, which is Steve Berkeley. If he is here, please let me know. I do not see him. I don't know if this was the last minute or if things have gotten better for the reasons why he had resigned in the past. I know he went through a lot of things as well. The two former ones are also Sherman Halleck and John Franz. Their knowledge combined will do more for this town than I think the entire town could together. The experience that they both have, and with what they're willing to do and to help with, and this is till the election time, that they can step right in and go running. And I can learn as we go, help out with whatever I need to, and hopefully we can pull everything together. That is what I would like to see. Doesn't mean it's going to happen that way, but that's what I want to see.
Margaret, I think what you're saying makes perfect sense to me, given the discussions that I've listened to over the last few months. But the hesitation I have is that you said that one wouldn't work with you to appoint the other. Have you had? Okay, you haven't talked to either.
No, I've talked
So
to both, but hold on. The thing, I don't know what someone will do once they're on the board. People change their minds all the time. I don't have any hesitation.
They do what they say they're going to do.
Yes, and I have no hesitation, but
I cannot sit here and stand here and guarantee you that, you know, I can't say both are gonna be on the board, this is how it's gonna work. I cannot guarantee that.
We'll start over here and just work our way around, otherwise I'll lose track. Sir?
They're both here. Could we ask them directly?
I don't see why not. It's a public meeting and
Well, which one of you would like to get appointed first? Are you both still interested? Is this sincerely you're both for John?
The two candidates, please stand, because I don't see you.
John, do you mind standing up just so everybody recognizes that you're one of the former selectmen? Certainly.
I've been around here for a while. I've been 18 years on the board. Two steps started in 1978 and worked up to 1987. And then went off for a while, got a break, vacation. I didn't go to the Caribbean ball. I did go to the Caribbean, but then came back in 2001. So 2 9-year steps. Very interesting process. And, like a small town, politics does get thick. And it's kind of a shame it gets that way. I look at what has happened here and what's happened in anything in a small town. You have to look at, let's get this thing solved. We got a job to do, and let's drop the politics. And, sometimes you may not particularly get along with somebody, that you have to work with somebody. And however it works. And I think, Margaret, did you mention Mr. Berkeley?
yes, I just received that tonight.
And Mr. Halleck and myself. There are, I guess, 3 names that are available there. So I have to decide what the 2 members of the board want to do. And I don't want to go in and say, I can't work with this guy, he's a jerk. I don't want to do that. We got tax rates to do, we got to take care of our roads, we got to get some people ready to go. If we don't have these roads plowed, I do not want to be on the receiving end of the first snowstorm.
In other words, John, you'd be willing to work with either person. You'd be willing to work with anyone else.
I think it's just something we have to do. We just have to throw aside, bury the hatchet below, and do it. I have to say some things that work for in this town, tangibly. I worked with Sean on this. We got the AEDs here in town. I'm glad we did. And we got something from it. Worked with the school reapportionment committee, which Mr. Hebert was on. We came up with a formula that benefits this town. It wasn't great, there was a lot of meetings, but we got things done. But I'm just looking at trying to see what works best in this community. And in other words, I'm saying I want to help. And then I have to decide, if it comes down to that decision, then I have to really weigh it. You get 18 years, this will beat you up pretty good. Get a good place now, I have to pop some blood pressure meds off the line.
He's only 29. He's a rough time on the select board.
Lots of little hair out of the job, too.
Now you've had your hands up. This gentleman in the green shirt has been very patient, so go ahead first.
John, I have a question for you. If you were appointed first, would you guarantee to appoint Sherman?
If you were appointed first, there's a guarantee to appoint Sherman. Everybody at the power.
I can't make guarantees at the moment. I'd like to, whoever the other candidate is, I'd like to see that person interview. Okay? And I believe an interview is one way to figure out that you do the final cut, right? Is there?
This is all going to be on Superior Court.
We have another former selectman. He might be throwing his hat in.
My name is Mike Mock. The last day I was a selectman, I left here and said I was never going to come back. That the town is in such a mess right now that I felt like I needed to come back. My question, or really what I'm asking you, Margaret, is that you have 2 people here tonight, like everybody's talking about. Let's move on. You have the ability to name 2 people present. We have the ability to walk out of here tonight with 3 selected.
No,
2.
Here's why. Because
They can't vote on it tonight?
once they have to post a meeting, there's a legal requirement, because now they're conducting official business. So they have to post a meeting, and I don't know, was it 1 day, 24 hours?
It's 24 hours, that's 24 hours. I do 2 days to be safe.
Right, so by the end of this week, by Friday night you can meet and appoint. Because you can only appoint 1. And then the two in an official meeting can appoint the third.
Well, before you make that decision, I would ask both of them if they would, because you may not have Steve. Steve is not here tonight to say he is willing to do it. He, for whatever reason, I'm not aware of, he resigned once. And I would be concerned with that happening again. And I would ask these two gentlemen tonight if they would support the other person that has volunteered to do this. And it is a miserable job. I get it. I get it. You're up there, you're probably got it worse than anything I ever saw. So I'm sympathetic to your plight right now. But we want to move on and to stop this infighting that the town is having. These two people that have said they want to do it need to work together and say that they're going to support the other person.
I want to interject something here. What I'm hearing is a number of people who were select people and walked away saying, I'll never do it again. That's not because the job is difficult. That's because the population of the town has become difficult. We need to point that finger at ourselves, okay, and say, you know what? We're a problem, but we're also part of the solution. You can make your point without being nasty, and you can be effective without being mean-spirited. Those are required skills, and you can do this. I mean, you wouldn't treat your children the way you treat your select board. So maybe a little bit of respect for the work they do, even if they disagree with you, is in order. That's all I'm going to say. Lady Green.
Bob, I understand that. I completely agree as a somewhat new resident to Dorchester that our selectmen have not been treated well, and that we seem to be following in a pattern of it not working. From an outsider, part of our problem is that we have selectmen that have resigned or quit that come and constantly input onto the new selectmen. And then we have the old selectmen that have retired or pulled back in. What I suggest is rather than going back, obviously, we have a great, idea of getting prawns and whatever back, but we've never really had an opportunity to get new blood in there. And I think we are at a time where new blood has to come in. We're sick of the old coming in that have quit their jobs. They have walked out. As far as I'm concerned, if you quit your job, I don't care how bad it is. You quit your job, you quit. You said I can't deal with it. So I don't want your input on what's going forward. You have a man that's retired, I want your input, but does he really want, he may or may not want it. We need new blood back in here.
No, I would answer you in terms of...
I'm going to ask,
Oh,
I'm trying to keep
sorry,
an orderly succession. This gentleman had his hand up, and you'll be... Okay.
All right, so it's getting contentious again. I think in terms of, I'm the moderator in the town, so I sort of try to be an impartial guide to some of these decisions also. So what I'm trying to do is gauge what the public wants and what we can succeed, what the response will be. And the new blood, I'm all for new blood. Let's elect them in March.
Right.
Let's elect them.
Exactly.
Okay. But right now, I think what we have is this contention between perhaps two affected parties. And what I'd like to see is if both parties in front of everyone say they would support the other one, if they were appointed first, then we know that this is amistad. This is approaching being able to work together, coming to some agreements. So, Mr. Franz, I heard you say you wanted to interview Sherman or something. I'd like to, you know Sherman, all right?
I know Sherman.
So I'd like to hear from both of you, if you were willing to work together, you would say, if I am appointed first, I will appoint you the others. Or, we cannot trust you folks to work together. If you can't say that tonight, that you would appoint the other, then I don't think it's...
We haven't heard from you.
Yeah, I think that's what we need to do. And Well, we got tonight. Are you willing to serve or not?
Am I willing to serve?
Yes.
It's
a yes or no.
I'm going to hold him.
He's holding.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, almost everybody knows that's I'm not campaigning here tonight for this position. This is a 5-month commitment we're making here. We need somebody to come in and help Margaret. This is the busy time of the year for tax rate, coming in under the budget, putting a new budget together, the warrant has to be made, the annual report has to be prepared. A lot of work to do. We need somebody in there. I volunteered to come in because I know how to do all this and to help them get through the end of the year. Just a 5-month commitment. That's all. And if people want to know if I would work with John and I have served on the select board before. We served 1 year, and everything went well, right, John? Yeah. So, of course, I would make the commitment that, yes, I would appoint John Franz. But, of course, you understand that anything that you say here today is non-binding. So I'll give you my word that I would do that.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Speaking about new blood on the board, the last 3 members of the board were all new blood. That did not work out. It was to be a disaster. We need somebody here with experience to guide us through the next 6 months until we can have an election. Simple as that.
Sir.
As a former board member, I'd like to say that I try to find younger people who hadn't been in it before, and because of all the contention and toxicity in this town, I couldn't find anybody to come on board that had been on board before. But that's what I was looking for.
Listen
to try and
to
find somebody neutral that isn't one group that hates the other and another group that hates the other.
Listen to what the man is saying. The toxicity of the environment is chasing away the very people you need to come up and step up into the next generation of leadership in your town. You can solve that. It's on you. Okay? And I believe that you can, and I believe that you will. Who's next to speak? Margaret, I'm going to leave it up to you and the community to decide if you want to do something tonight and appoint a select person and go forward from there. It's out of my realm, but I'm happy that anyone that wants to speak to that, because we need to get this moved along. In the green.
Margaret, are you willing to appoint one of them tonight?
Yes, I am. I just need to ask about the proper process because I don't have somebody to second my motion and I don't have nothing to state it. So it's legal.
So is this something you want to do?
Yes.
Let's
I
get
don't
it
want to be
done.
left out when I feel all of it.
I would submit process-wise that there's not a motion that's necessary because there's only one member of the board. It's just, I appoint this person as an interim select person to fulfill the term, and you'd have to pick which term they would fulfill. So that they can then elect, you two could decide on who the other person is. The other. There's not a motion necessary to do this. It's a matter of simply an appointment.
Well, if you're going to find somebody that's on the list, the first one to put their name on that list is Sharon.
Yes.
So I would recommend we appoint him tonight, and then between the 2 years, we can do it.
Darlene.
I would just like to ask everybody to come together as a community. Let's put all our differences aside and get this community back on track. This is a lovely town. We have a lot to offer all our citizens, and to let any differences, arguments, it's not going to get us anywhere. And it hasn't. For 2 years I've been fighting to try and get some support and help to get us pointed in the right direction. We've got people here offering us sage advice. Let's listen to it. Let's all pull up our pull-ups and act like the big kids we are. Because it's got to stop. We're not going to ever get anywhere if the bickering and arguing continues. So I would like to see us all join together as a community whoever gets appointed, let's support them and encourage them and try. If we're gonna disagree, this is a fact of life, but I think we can disagree amicably without turning into jerks, and be respectful that somebody might have a different opinion than ours. I mean, I'm always right, but sometimes I gotta admit I was wrong. And that's not easy, but I'm willing to do that. And we all need to strive to do that if we want to proceed in life, and we could be phenomenal. This town has so much to offer. There's so many good people, and every one of you in your own right I have respect for, and there's certain things people do that you don't have respect for, but we can all look above that and try to rise above it and feel good about one another, and that the support is going to be there. Because if we're not going to support each other, we might as well just close it up, because it's just ludicrous. And working as a town clerk and dealing with most of you people, I see a whole different side than what other people see. And it is possible. So let's try and love one another and get along. And
I'd like to say something that I think is really important for you folks, okay? And that is, I can tell you that in the legislature and in the Senate, right, we have really vigorous debates on issues. They're not vicious, they're vigorous. There's a difference. Okay? At the end of the day, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But at the end of the day, you don't walk away angry. You join ranks and you say, okay, my position didn't prevail. I will support the elected leadership in the position that the community at large has decided to take. And that's called pulling up your pants and putting your adult pants on. Okay? It's just a matter of knowing how not to win, as it is each of us is passionately constructed to want to win. But followership is the only way, good followership is the only way this town is going to survive and move ahead. You can do it. It's a personal choice about your attitude. And the things that are real important, you may lose some, you may win some, but at the end of the day, you have to unite as a community to move it forward. Otherwise, you grind up back here again. And we don't want that to happen. Who's next? Sir?
Yeah. In the event that the town can't pull together, and we would be, I'm guessing, absorbed in another town, which may or may not have the type of zoning that we have, which means we end up with 50 trailer parks and 10,000 kids going to mass home, with little tax base. Just throwing that out there. Money shekels.
So would you rather go on to Groton or Rumney? That's a long way down the road, but it is a possibility. I would suspect that you would probably figure out that you want to maintain your identity as a really unique and beautiful community. It's up to you. It's up to you. Any further questions? Because I think Darlene needs to move forward. Okay? I would ask you this, that you commit to support whatever decision she makes, no matter whether you like it or not. Okay, that's where it starts. It starts tonight, and it goes forward from here. It's on you.
Has she already made it tonight? Has she already made it tonight?
Yes.
Did it? Sherman did it.
Break it on us, baby. Come on. Get interested in that. Go. All right. Stand up so everyone can see and hear me. I'm appointing Sherman Hallett to the Board of Selectmen to fulfill the term until the next election. And at our next official posted public meeting, which should be next Thursday, unless we manage to decide sooner, for another meeting. We will be appointing a third selectman. However, we will discuss and speak that at the next meeting, if he's willing to accept.
How do we,
Are you willing to accept?
are you willing to accept?
Yeah, he said yes.
For the record, you need to decide which unfulfilled term you're electing to, you're appointing to.
Until the next
Yeah, but
town meeting.
you have two vacancies. I don't know whether they were for 3 years or 2 years remain, or 2 years or 1 year remain.
It's just till the next election. isn't it?
Right, but you fill in specific
Slots.
What slot is he supposed to fill in?
Doesn't he get to decide?
Filling, Larry.
It's an 18 to 30.
Mike's turn.
You understand the issue?
So so legally it has to be to fill somebody else's term.
Yes. You fulfill the unfilled, you appoint to the unfilled remainder of the vacancy. You could give the name, and that would automatically say what you were residential, how many years are left in the term. So you're either doing it for a year or for 2 years, depending on who you're appointing to the board. But that needs to be part of this decision, because you then, with the other select person that you appoint, will decide who fulfills the remaining term that's unfilled at that time. Pick which term you're filling. So did you hear that?
I should be, hold on, Mike is raising, he's actually here tonight.
Margaret, when I was voted in, my term was for 3 years.
Yes, and so it'd be one more term.
So it would be, March would be 2 more years.
2 more years. Okay.
Mary would be coming up.
Might be 1 year.
Yeah.
In March, so currently, year and a half left.
But he will be re-elected or not in March. So there's another election for all three. Right, for all three will be an election in March. Okay, but for now, your appointment is for the 2 years remaining unfulfilled in that term. Correct? Does everyone understand that?
Yes.
So you're all going to get to pick a whole new board in March. That's the bottom line.
We're moving to
questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.